Welcome to Color Harmony. My name is Eric Francis. Today, we will be painting hair. We begin by making a drawing. We then redraw it on canvas. We give it a number wash, and we're ready to begin. Let's go. So I get this question often enough, but most recently, Lewis Brown wanted to know, how do you paint an afro? Some of the information you're getting here, I gave in a previous video entitled How to Paint Hair. If you haven't seen the video, you should check it out. There'll be a link in the description. Let's take a look at the reference photo. Well, if you notice, this photo is a little bit dark, so you can't really identify anything. So I lightened it up using some editing magic. I'm using an imaging editing program called Picasa. It's free, you can easily get it online, just look it up. I focused on numbers 1, 2, and 3. Those were my basic shapes. Those were the basic patterns. To me, those were the dominant shapes. Those were the things that jumped out to me the most. By focusing on those alone, it keeps you from having to wonder how you're going to paint the whole entire thing. By getting those things in, you then begin to see and be able to identify more easily the shapes around them. I'm at the stage of the painting where I'm building up color. And after I build up the color, I blend it in some before I move on to painting the hair. It's like I'm doing two different paintings. One of the face and one of the hair. My next tip would be add smaller details and highlights. What we're doing is building up the painting in stages. We're just putting layer on top of layer on top of layer. We're starting with the most large general details to adding very fine details. At this early stage in painting the hair, you're not really overly concerned with blending. Now it gets blended in some because you're working wet paint into wet paint. I mean, you don't have to let each layer dry. You're just continually working it in, getting everything in the right spot. At this point, we're ready to switch brushes. I'm using an old beat up round brush that'll make really good, nice hair texture. So if you have an old brush, it'll come in handy. Before I start using this brush, I allow the paint some time to dry. What I'm doing with this brush is I'm adding a lot more dark. Now, in the beginning of the video, I showed the colors that I used. I'm using mostly dark, and then some medium number 1, and I'm using medium number 2 as a highlight. I'm not actually using the highlight color. I'll wait till the very end to add that in. To create this sort of hair texture, I make small circular brush strokes followed by short parallel lines. I dilute the paint and I begin to wash the darker areas with the larger 3/4 brush and the smaller area with the round brush. I tried something a little bit different here. I used a sponge that has like a Brillo sort of pattern and dipped it into the highlight color and used it to paint in the highlight hair texture. At this stage, the paint is pretty thin, After I did that, I began to wash the black over and, just keep washing colors in. I like to close with, we're going to have to cultivate our talent by diligently practicing so we can become skillful painters. And you're going to have to practice all the time. And if you can't physically sit down in front of a canvas and practice, practice in your mind. Imagine creating incredible paintings. Even if you don't reach the mark every time, effort never fails. Just keep trying, keep working at it. I would like you to subscribe, like, share, or leave a comment. If you want to see more paintings, you can visit my blog. There'll be a link in the description. And if you want to support this content because you've been learning from it, then you can donate. That goes to pay for the price of paints, paintbrushes, canvases, the mediums and all that stuff. I thank you in advance. It's greatly appreciated. These videos are made in response to questions I get asked all the time. So feel free to ask. Peace.